I want to mention that this session will be recorded. A number of people who weren't able to make it live asked if there would be a replay, so we will make a replay available afterwards. If you don't want your smiling face to be on the recording, I guess you could turn off your webcam, but I like to see who I'm dealing with if we can. And I want to mention a couple of things about the online meeting environment. If you don't participate in a lot of these, you may not have a headset like I'm using, but you can use earbuds. Or the simplest thing to do is just to mute your mic when you don't have anything particular to say, so that we don't get feedback, we don't get background noise, and you can hear me. But whenever you want to, there is a microphone button in the lower left-hand corner, so you can interrupt and let me know that I've gone through something too fast and that we need to back up and go over it. So I'm going to show some introductory slides, and then I'm going to do some show and tell, some live demo, and a lot of that can be guided by where you are in terms of what your questions are. So I did a presentation just a few weeks ago at the local Toastmasters Leadership Institute. We had a great packed room, but the one thing that they told me afterwards is that I went through things too fast. So hopefully we'll be able to go through them at a reasonable pace here, whatever pace you would like me to go through them at, and answer your questions along the way. So I want to talk about online tools for marketing and organizing your club. And sometimes when I'm asked to present, people want to put me on the public relations track. And certainly there is a public relations and marketing aspect of what I promote, which is very important. And as I was saying just a few moments ago, I think very often these days, the first impression that somebody gets of your club is not when they walk in the door, it's before they walk in the door. Because they're looking around, they're trying to see if there are things in their zip code, things that are at a reasonable time for them. But they also tend to come over and check you out. Just like we do our research on every purchase that we make, everything we get involved in, we tend to check it out on the web these days. And so having a strong web presence can make a difference. And I often do get people coming in the door of my club or coming to visit the online club that I run, Online Presenters, and they'll say, I looked at several other clubs, but yours seemed to have the most going on. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we do have more going on and better, more dynamic people than everybody else, but we're showing it, we're sharing it, we're being proud of what we have, and we show that in a dynamic way. But the other aspect then is organizing your meetings. So I have some tools for that, and I want to make it the same platform for both marketing the club and doing the organization of the meetings, filling the agenda. And I'll try and show how those things fit together in a number of different ways. So I've been using some version of this little bit of propaganda for several years. The idea is if you're looking for an awesome Toastmasters club, we're going to get you found in Google. We're going to allow you to showcase what is special about your club, what's different about it. And then we're also going to have tools that allow people to come in and sign up for roles and get active in the club. So those are the couple of main aspects. I don't need to let that keep playing. So if you don't know what WordPress is a standard bit of software that is used by a lot of organizations. It's used by small-time bloggers, but it's being used by the New Yorker magazine, for example. If you go to their website, it is a WordPress website. It's a customized WordPress website. It's a very nice WordPress website, but it's based on this basic engine. And a lot of marketing websites as well would be WordPress under the hood. So it's a set of tools for publishing and organizing content that you want to publish online. So it's a writing tool, it's a word processor, but it has tools for embedding multimedia, images, video, all those things as well. And it's what's called open source software. What that really means is that all the people who benefit from it and have an idea of how to make it better can enhance it or extend it. The really smart people contribute back to the core WordPress software. I'm not quite on that level of smarts, but one of the things that they allow also is the ability for you to extend WordPress. So if you were to set up your own independent WordPress website, if you already have a website that's capable of running WordPress, you would go out and get a couple of plugins, RSVP Maker, which is a calendaring and event reservations plugin. And if you registered on the WordPress for Toastmasters website, RSVP Maker is what processed your registration, should have sent you a confirmation message by email. It can be set up to do PayPal payments if it's an event that you're charging for. And then RSVP for Toastmasters is a whole bunch of elaborations on top of that that allow you to do meeting roles, sign up, and organize your agenda. Then for appearances, what we have is a theme called Lectern that is designed around the standard banner images that Toastmasters has approved for use at the top of websites. And I've gone a few rounds with the WordPress International brand police. They want you to use their brand, but if you don't use it exactly the way they want you to, then they get upset. So I've gone through the trouble of getting this Lectern theme approved. You can use several standard banners. I'd like to try and maybe add a little bit more variation. But there's a number of other things that you can customize around that. You can change the background color and things like that. But the most important thing, of course, is what's going to go in the center, what you're going to put into it about what makes your club special. I did want to mention that I have done some work on trying to make this work pretty well on a mobile phone as well. So that's what it looks like on my Android phone. So if you've been to the WordPress for Toastmasters website, that is sort of the documentation and propaganda site that I have set up to talk about how wonderful this is and to give some how-to information. The documentation, by the way, is something where I could really use help. Anybody wants a high-performance leadership project of helping to organize that tutorial material better, coming in and maybe even just critiquing it, telling me what I think is obvious, that's not obvious, that's not explained well enough, I could use help with all of that. And then Toastmost is a service I set up. I mentioned that if you were setting up a site on your own, you would go out and get these couple of plugins and the Lectern theme. On the Toastmost service, I'm trying to simplify things for people who aren't necessarily that techie, but do want access to these tools. So it's all pre-packaged, all pre-installed there. You can go in, you can get a website for your club for free, similar to how you would set it up on Free Toast. And I'll talk a little bit in a few minutes about the sponsorship program where I'm trying to get sponsors to underwrite the cost of that as it grows. So far, it's just been a loss leader for my consulting business. So let's see, I don't know whether I want to dwell on this too much, but I did want to point out that when you're signing up for a speech, for example, we do have the Pathways projects loaded in here. If you come across something that's missing, let me know, because I think this was based on a pre-release version of Pathways. But you can go in and put in your title. You can put in an introduction. And one thing I worked on is, this is sort of, would you like fries with that? Once you sign up to be a speaker, or you sign up for any role, we immediately prompt you, would you like to sign up for a role at the following week's meeting? too. So, I mean, I started working on this when I was a VP of education, and I was interested in the marketing of my club, but I was also interested in my own productivity, in saving myself some time and allowing my members to do more by self-service so that I wouldn't necessarily have to do it all for them. So I wouldn't have to chase them down if we had meeting roles, that I could put out an email that says, you know, we have an opening for 2 evaluators next week. Can anybody fill that? And at least some of the time, people would respond by clicking the link in that email message, coming to the website, and signing up for that speech. Here I'm pivoting back to the promotional aspect. One of the things that makes this dynamic is when you can feature somebody who in your club who has done something special, like win an award. So this was a post on the website. We have her picture. We have the video of her winning speech. And because this was an evaluation contest, we also got permission from the test speaker to have his speech up there. So we're making a big deal out of it. I mean, I think if this was an area contest, maybe a division contest, but still, we're making a big deal out of the fact that we have talent in our club and we want to celebrate that. And then once it's on the website, one of the things I can do is I can cross-post it to Facebook. I can cross-post it to other media. So this is a way of getting people's attention, of giving them a reason to click through and come to our website because maybe they want to see the video of this speech. Maybe they know her from some other context. And they're going to watch her speech and they're going to learn something about Toastmasters and our particular club along the way. Video is something that I'm really big on. Is we routinely record the speeches, the formal speeches, and sometimes the table topics at our club. And one of the reasons we're able to get people to agree to that up front is we tell them that we're not going to make them YouTube stars until they're ready to be YouTube stars. You can actually publish video on YouTube in a status called unlisted. And there is a more detailed tutorial on the WordPress for Toastmasters website that I'll point you to that goes through some of the ways that things that you can set up for that. But you can set your account to have all videos unlisted by default, and then we only publicize the ones where the member tells us that they really like that speech, they're proud of that speech, and they want to make a big deal out of it, and they want to share it with all their friends. I see somebody waving here, but I don't know if she's waving to me. If you're trying to get my attention, go ahead and speak up. No, okay, she's waving to somebody else. All right. So this is a canned demo because it would be awkward to do this live. But before I even leave a meeting, I'll start uploading videos from the meeting from a phone. And this is the old phone that I had stuck in a drawer. It doesn't have an active cell phone plan, but I can get on the Wi-Fi at the place where we meet. And I can just go through and start. When I click on the little camera icon, that's upload. I can select the videos that I want to upload. And I can keep doing that. Even when the first one's still uploading, I can set up the second one and start it. And I don't typically try and put in the speech title or all those details on my phone. I'll go back and do that on the computer later. And this slide will probably come up again at some later point. But let me just show you. Let's say, oh, this is what I get for having too many windows open. There we go. All right. So one of the most recent posts on the WordPress for Toastmasters site is how to routinely record and share speech videos. And it goes through everything that I just showed you there on the phone, as well as some behind the scenes tools in the WordPress for Toastmasters software that help you publish those videos to the website, to your email list. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it's a very valuable tool. See, I can show you what this looks like. Should be able to find one of these messages from my home club. Okay. There we go. All right, so this is a quick way. Again, I'm trying to make it productive so that we can do this on a regular weekly basis. Sending out a couple of speech videos. Usually there'd be 2 or 3. And there is actually a disclaimer at the bottom of the page that says videos are intended as a tool for the speakers, and you can customize that as well. Apparently I drew on the screen. I figure out how to get rid of that. Okay. So, okay. And I did also mention, maybe this is getting ahead of things, but we do have a current sponsor, a company called Speaker Promo that does a speaker directory, decided to advertise on the site, and that's helping pay the bills. So if you own a company or are affiliated with a company that might be willing to help keep this project financially solvent, this is trying to show the package where there's a little ad on the sidebar, there's an ad on the administrator's dashboard, there's an ad on the bottom of the email version of the agenda that we send out, and an ad on the bottom of every page. So I'm trying to give them decent value for their money for participating. And we really just have our first substantial sponsor running right now. But that's enough of that. Let's show a few things on a site here. I can go one or two ways. I could, well, I'll start by going to this demo site. So there are instructions here on how you can come in and test this out. So this is demo.toastmos.org. The username and password for the sample account are right there in the instructions. So, and I'm going to log in as myself here. So when I click on this member access panel, it brings me in a mode where I can come in and I can sign up for a role. And as I say, it advertises that they'd like me to sign up for another role. If I come back to this page later and I realize I actually can't make it to the meeting, I can remove myself. I do try and tell people that if they're doing that, like the right before the meeting, they should also let the Toastmaster of the day know. But still, it is a handy capability for people to be able to come in and sign themselves up. Now, one thing that also happens fairly often Well, as I mentioned, we want to be able to go out to people with an email. So this is a tool that allows me to email out the whole agenda, and it shows what roles are currently open. And embedded in that message is the link back to the website. So we're trying to close the circuit. I need people to sign up. I'm sending it out for you. I'm making it easier for you to see exactly what's open that you might be willing to fill in, and give you a link you can click on to come back to the site. So we can personalize this. We can change the subject line. And we can send that out to the list. So as I say, I'm trying to make it easy for people to do that interactively, but sometimes they will just, maybe they're on their phone. It is possible to do it through your phone, but maybe only somebody as geeky as me would try and sign up for roles through the phone. A lot of times people will send you a note back saying, I can be an evaluator. So what I can do then is I can go into this edit mode. So this is where I'm the VP of Education, or I am the Toastmaster of the day, responsible for filling in those gaps. And when I go into the list, I can see the things that are open, and I can pick people off the list and plug them in. And you might notice that, I don't know whether everybody can see this. Maybe I should make the type a little bit larger, but it actually shows when that person last filled the particular role. So this can be a way also for you as an organizer, if you're assigning people to roles, maybe you assign them to something that they haven't done in a while. And this comes back with a little confirmation that Clara Oswald has been assigned as general evaluator. So one of the values of recording and organizing the information this way, there is a way of going in and after the meeting reconciling the difference between who signed up for roles and who actually showed up at your meeting, so you can make the records more accurate. But each member can also go in and they can see their own progress. They can see a listing of all their speeches. You can see mine go back to 2012. I actually have been working on this project for quite a while. There is a section for pathways as well, so that we're starting to get some of that information flowing into this system. You can look up progress reports for other members. Let's and some of this is configurable too, where if you only want the VP of Education or the officers to be able to go in and see all this information, you can limit it, or you can make it more open. So I can see that Abraham Lincoln has earned his competent communicator a couple times over, or it looks like it by the number of CC speeches he's done. And I can see some of he's spoken about 4 quite a few times for some odd reason. Let's say, can I pause for questions? There should be some by this point. Anybody? Let's exit out of this for just a second because I don't see the chat. I said I would, okay. Got a couple of Moses says, will the recording be shared? Yes, absolutely. This is being recorded and it will be published to the WordPress for Toastmasters site later. And I've got a question about the scheduling tool. Can you pre-propagate the roles in advance and assign to another user when the assigned person doesn't show? Yeah, we have some of that. I mean, I've shown how you can edit signups for other people. There are some tools also for recommending roles where you can suggest somebody for a role, but they have to click to confirm that they're accepting it. And somebody asked, should a club look at a website as their sales funnel? So that, yeah, that's marketing terms. Absolutely. I think this is, a lot of this is top of the funnel activity. Is first of all, people need to be aware that something called Toastmasters exists before you can get them interested in. So once they know that something that called Toastmasters exists, once they know that your club is out there, then you have the potential of getting their deeper interest. So ideally, you want them to poke around your website for a little bit. As I say, you want them to come away with the impression that this club actually has more going on than a lot of others that I see. They're obviously active. They've obviously got some great people there. Maybe I should go. And then, your only job from there is to do everything else right. Once you get them in the door, you give them the warm greeting. That obviously is really what seals the deal. You're never going to sell them 100% based on a website, nor should they. You could have a great website and a lousy club. But ideally, you want to have both, and you want the greatness of your club to shine through in how you present it online. So let's see, I'm gonna for some reason I couldn't see the chat window when I was screen sharing there, but go back to the screen share. Okay. All right, we'll work that out. So let me go through the process of how you would set up a site on the Toastmasters service from scratch. I think that's a good next step. And as I say, you can install the software on your own web hosting. There is a certain amount of additional freedom that you would get in that scenario. However, it's also a little bit more complicated. And so if you want to keep it simple, if you want to have the benefit of the software without having to deal with server parameters and some of the techier stuff, then the Toastmasters service may be the best option for you. So if you come to the home page, it asks you to subscribe to the WordPress for Toastmasters email list. And some of you may actually already be signed up for this because my RSVP form asks, can I sign you up for my list? And if you do that, you would already be on the list. If not, you would enter an email address here. And I'm going to do fake this, but I have a way of and actually I should actually get that information. Let's see. Once I've done that, it should allow me to come in and put in my information and my club information. Let's see. All right, so, and the address for my club website is going to be fake.toastmos.org. I can't give you a domain name of your own for free. However, it doesn't matter that much if you promote your club properly. Down here, it asks me for some details about, let's say, okay, first of all, it asks me for my time zone. It actually tries to automatically detect that. Then it asks me for when we meet. So a typical thing might be every Friday. My home club meets every Friday, not at 7 p.m., but at 7 a.m. You have to get up pretty early to beat Club Awesome. So you can have every Friday. You could also have something like the first and the third if you want, instead of every Friday. But you make your choices up here. We'll say every Friday. We're going to submit that. And it's going to come back saying that it has created a website for me. It's assigned me this random password. And I'd also be emailed a copy of that. So let me see if that has shown up here. So yeah, this is my confirmation. It has my password in it and so forth. Right. So where was I? Okay, so I'm on the Your New Club page. It says if I want to start setting this up, I'll need to click here and log in. So my username is fake. The password is that random password it gave me. So here I am. I'm now the administrator of this brand new website. So it shows me a welcome message, and it tries to explain some basic things. It tries to explain, first of all, that I'm behind the scenes here. This is what's referred to as the dashboard area of WordPress. So this is the administrators area. Members would also have access. This is where they would come to look up their statistics or to reset their passwords, things like that. So it tries to give me a little bit of built-in orientation. If I go out and visit the site, I'll see that I have this set up, and it has some default verbiage here that I can go in and modify. And probably you should really get rid of most of that boilerplate stuff about how wonderful Toastmasters is and start putting in information about what it is that makes your club so wonderful. If I want to edit the page, and click there at the top. And one of the things I'm going to talk about today is there is an upgrade to WordPress where they have changed the way the editor works. And that is active on the Toastmasters.org site. This content is actually shown up as, it says classic, which means that it's kind of the old format. And I am going to change that so that people will be getting stuff in the new format. But if I go to here, I say convert to blocks. It's just going to break it up into separate paragraphs. So this new editor is built around the concept that each component of the page is what they call a separate block. And you can have either text blocks like paragraphs, or you can say have an image block. So if I want to add image, I can go, I click there, I say upload, grab the image that I want to insert. It'll upload in the background. They give me the opportunity to add a caption. And then I have a bunch of other options. I could even change the size of this. I could decide whether it should be aligned to the right or the left. I don't like that. I'd rather have it, no, just this way is best, I guess. Oh, and this is how we would make it smaller. So I'm actually just getting used to this too. But what we're going to see in a few minutes is that this also changes how we handle the agendas from what I used to do. Let's see. Now, one thing to notice is that the information on the sidebar changes when I go between the text. Here it's just showing me parameters related to the size of the text and things like that. When I'm focused on the image, it shows me parameters related to the image, like do I want to see the full-size image, or do I just want to see a tiny little thumbnail version of it? See, I wound up on medium. How about thumbnail? There we go. That's the thumbnail squared off version of that image. So I'll update this, and I go out to view, and I should see that now I have this little image inserted in here. Go back to my dashboard here. I should see this little nagging message saying to come in and set up meeting schedule and roles. So if you're going to manage your agenda through this, which I recommend, this is one of the important steps. So we can see over to the right, it says every Friday. And something's not quite working right here. This is actually very new. So I'll deal with that as I go along. But one of the main things I wanted to show you is that just as we had different parameters for a paragraph versus an image, now we have this widget where we can add a role, or we can configure a role. So what we're saying is this is a role that's going to show up on our sign-up sheet. It's also going to show up on our agenda. And at the point where we introduce this person at the agenda, we will want to allow them 3 minutes to introduce themselves. So the agenda roles can have time associated with them. But, so, all right. Okay. If I put my cursor between two of these different blocks and create some space here, and I want to insert a Toastmasters agenda note. And this is actually where I want to put in Sergeant at Arms opens the meeting. And maybe he has a couple of minutes that will associate with that activity. And with that one. Just delete probably works too. Um, and then here's the part where the president comes in. And we do have the ability, if we want to make some of these things bold or italic. So we have some basic formatting controls available to us here. Again, we can associate time with that activity. And let's update that. And the reason this is called an agenda note is because it only shows up on the agenda. If we go out and look at this, this is a preview of how our template is set up. So the Toastmaster of the Day role shows up. That that activity for the agenda shouldn't show up here. Actually, that is showing up there. Let's see what's going on there. But if we go out to the agenda, we'll see this instruction about the Sergeant of Arms. We'll see the stuff about the president. So I think of these as the stage directions that we include on our agenda to explain how the meeting is organized. They don't need to appear on the sign-up sheet, but they do need to appear on our agenda. There's also a component called the sign-up note that would only appear on the sign-up form and not on the agenda. I knew something was going to go wrong today, except there are a couple of things that aren't working quite the way they're supposed to. Should probably show you briefly why this, at least when I get it completely working, will be an improvement. So this is the previous incarnation of the agenda editor. Where we had the same sort of thing. You had to double click on these things and they would pop up. But it was a little bit more of a hack. And the new agenda editor, I think, is going to be a nice improvement going forward, and is what I'm using for all my clubs right now. I need to figure out why that's at least the default agenda isn't showing up quite the way I want it to. But as far as finding those, if you just go in here to, if you're adding a block, obviously it has the paragraph, the image, the heading, the standard ones. But if you enter Toastmasters or start typing just the word toast, you will find these little components. The editable note one is something that we typically use for something like theme or word of the day. So this is a meeting theme component where if I go out to the site, somebody who is not necessarily authorized to edit the basic content of the site, but can edit the signups, can go in and type in the theme and the words of the day and save that. to the agenda. Now, this whole time I've been working with the template that lays out the standard schedule – 12 a.m. is a good idea. If this was an online club, I might also want to make sure that the time zone is displayed on the site and that we show time zone conversion buttons. Those can also be set to be there by default. And once we've got the agenda the way we want it, go over to this widget that has projected out the every Friday occurrences of all these dates. And I can scroll down here and I can say, I think that's probably Thanksgiving, or the following week is. But anyways, if it's a holiday, it's a day that our facility is not open, we might take that off the list. But otherwise, we can add them all as a batch. So now all these meetings should be live on the site. Now, the idea is that you set up your template to describe the way your typical meeting runs, the way you want your typical meeting to run. But you can also have variations for individual meetings. So if you need to, and again, I'm just going to ignore that thing with the blocks that aren't displaying properly for right now. But if you needed to say that this meeting is going to be 2 speakers rather than 3, because somebody is going to be giving a long speech. So 2 speakers, and we'll want 2 evaluators. And be able to update that. View this. Make sure that's saved. Okay, there we go. And we should see that this is a meeting that's set up to have 2 speakers and a backup speaker rather than 3, and 2 evaluator slots. So that's how you modify your agenda. From any agenda, you'll see the options to jump ahead to future meetings, either in the individual sign-up mode, or if you have the right to edit, in the edit mode, where you can assign other people to roles. Under agenda, we have print, where it automatically fires off the printer on your screen. The email option I showed you earlier. Export to Word can be handy if you want to do a little bit of extra formatting on your computer, or something's just a little bit wrong with what is on the web agenda and you want to clean it up. You can pull this down into your computer. And as soon as I say enable editing, that banner image should show up at the top. This is kind of an abbreviated agenda, but from here we can go on and pretty it up or print it on special paper or whatever it is we want to do. there are also ways with the web agenda, you can change things like the font size to make it larger. You can change a number of aspects of the layout. Let's so we have print, email, export to Word, show, which just displays it on screen. Agenda with contacts is a view that's handy if you are the meeting organizer. It's not going to work. Let me show you, see if I can show you on the Club Awesome website. Agenda with contacts actually shows people's phone numbers and email addresses, and it's actually not working quite the way it's supposed to either. All right. One other thing I should show, though. A moment. Sign-up sheet. So even though I promote using all these web tools, it is important, I still find, at least in my brick and mortar club, to be able to have a printable version of the list of who's already signed up for roles and where the openings are. We pass that around on the clipboard, and at the end of the meeting, we go back and go into that editing mode to update this list. One of the things on my to-do list is I'd actually like to have a three across listing with the drop-down choices with all the club members next to this, just to make it easier to go in and put in the data from this after the meeting. So that will probably be coming soon to the software. Let's see. And then planner. A number of things haven't been working today, so let's see if this works. Planner, no, that's not what I was expecting to see either. So I have been making a number of changes to get ready for this new agenda editor, and some elements of this are still a little bit out of sync. So I apologize for that. I think now that I've identified all the issues, in the process of going through this demonstration, I'll be going back and fixing a bunch of things as soon as we get off the call. Let me pause once again for questions. I think there are some things in the chat. Let's lectern responsive to mobile. Yes. I don't know whether it's perfectly responsive, but it does resize. And I think I showed an image earlier of what the Club Awesome website looks like on my phone. I can, let's see. Let me go back to the, yeah, in the center there, that is off an Android phone, the Club Awesome website. I have seen sometimes where depending on the name of the club, sometimes the type is a little bit crowded, so I think it still needs some fine tuning. But I have done some work on that, and I have actually been able to go in and sign up for roles, edit the agenda, not do the full agenda editing routine, but I can edit other people's signups on the agenda. I've done that through my phone in a pinch. Let's see. other things in the chat. Somebody asked about how much time it takes to come up to the level of understanding. I mean, I guess the best way is to experiment with it. You can go ahead and sign up for a site on toastmasters.org. The only real requirement there is if the site doesn't become an active club website, if you leave it unpublished for months at a time, then eventually I'll turn it off. But you can definitely go in and just kick the tires, experiment, and I encourage that. I don't know if I explicitly mentioned that, but when you first set up one of these sites, so the Faker's website is not at this point really public to the world, in the sense that it's not being advertised on Google. If Google comes by the site, it'll actually get a code saying, go away, we're not ready to be public yet. So what you can do is spend some time getting the site to look the way you want it, function the way you want it to, and then once you're ready to make the site public, there's a Toastmasters setting screen, and we can say, yes, this is open for business. There are options related to the email list, whether that's turned on or off. You would go in and to import your member list, one shortcut is you can go to toastmasters.org and download the spreadsheet of member names and contact information. And we have some instructions here on how to copy and paste that. You copy it and paste it into this box, you click post, and it will walk you through the routine of adding, it could be 40 members to the system. They'll all get an email invitation with a default password, and they can come in and check it out. So, what you can also add people one at a time. What you might want to do if your club is thinking of piloting this is if you're going to be the lead person, you go ahead and set it up. You invite in a couple of other people, a couple of other officers, or people who are interested, or people who maybe have some knowledge of web design, who seem to be techier, or who are just more interested and motivated. So you get a few people into the system and start to work with it. Once several people have their accounts in there, then you'll see their names under this list, and you can put in your officers. There are a lot of different options you can set here. You can set some security parameters. So there's a bunch of defaults, but the basic member account is called subscriber, and you can decide whether a basic member is allowed to go in and edit who's signed up for speeches, who's signed up for evaluations, or do you want to reserve that for just your officers? So there are options depending on how you feel about that. In general, my attitude is a little bit more trusting. Is I turn on most of these features. I'm not going to let a basic member come in and change other people's passwords or mess around with their personal information. But in terms of being able to organize a meeting, at least in my club, the Toastmaster of the day is supposed to be responsible for filling vacancies on the agenda. So that's not a role that's the same from week to week. But you potentially could decide that you're going to have a security role for members who've been in the club 6 months or more that's different from somebody who just walked in the door, and only allow certain privileges for the people who are a little bit more established and you trust them more. So those are all choices that you can make. I mentioned that I think I mentioned that I could use some help with documenting all this. I post blogs periodically when I add something that's new and cool and I'm excited about it. And I coach people along, I answer questions, but sometimes people still aren't as clear as they ought to be about what's available for them. Let's see a couple more things in the chat. If anybody wants to speak up and turn on the mic, you're certainly welcome. You should have an assistant to handle chat, David. Yes, actually, we do that in my online club, Online Presenters. We have somebody called the chat monitor, whose job it was, or is every week, actually, to surface things that the Toastmaster of the day may not have seen what are going on in the chat, like that something is going horribly wrong. Let's say. I'm sure there are other things that I meant to cover. I'm a little bit rattled by a couple of things that went wrong. I did mention that you could change things like the font size, and there's some explanations here of a basic code you could enter. And even if you don't really understand what this means, you can understand that if you make this number bigger, then the font on your agenda is going to be bigger. And if we save that and go out and look at the agenda on this website, we should see some big fonts. Let's say agenda show. Okay, so if you had a club that was mostly senior citizens and you wanted to have the font bigger, you can make the font bigger. A lot of times in my club, we're trying to keep it really compact and trying to make sure it fits on one page. But at some point, maybe it's okay to have a 2-page agenda or print it front and back of the same piece of paper or whatever. All right. All right, I'm going to go back to, I was just trying to show my contact information slide from the end. If you want to reach me, you can definitely reach me through the WordPress for Toastmasters website. If you're interested in Toastmasters meetings in an environment like this, I was the founding president of Online Presenters, which is op.toastmost.org. So I'm working off of that platform as well. Here are a number of different ways that you can contact me or connect with me on social media, and I am always available to answer questions. And yes, if I can recruit somebody to help out as an HPL, just somebody doing an HPL on documentation of the software or training materials for the software, that would be golden as far as I'm concerned. I did miss a question about is the functionality of the agenda on the website different from the one on EasySpeak? Now, I was never a regular EasySpeak user. I had never heard of EasySpeak when I started down this path. I know EasySpeak has a lot of fans. I was not very impressed with FreeToast Toasts, and my remark to a friend was, do we have to use this thing? Is this required? And it turned out that it wasn't necessarily required, but it was made available for free. So I had to do some work if I wanted to do something different. But I started down that path. EasySpeak, from my perspective, seems to be a good administrative tool, not a great marketing tool. The thing you get with WordPress for Toastmasters is this really is the technology behind the NewYorker.com and all these public professional marketing organization websites. Whereas Free Toast Host is just for Toastmasters. EasySpeak is just for Toastmasters. And I think Free Toast Host in particular is an easy way of setting up kind of a cookie cutter website with, you know, one picture on the home page and a little bit of information about your club. But the thing about having a blog as part of your club website is you can keep adding to it. You can build up a massive material. And every time you add something with a new headline, that's an opportunity to build your search engine rank, because Google looks for things that are on different topics. And if you have speech videos that you've published that are on a number of different topics, if you have articles you've published, there are a number of different topics, if there are names of people there, that's all information that gets indexed and is potentially something that's going to lead people to your site. I don't think I explained that when you set up your agenda, if I log out of here and I go to the members directory page, well, come on, let me log out. So when I'm logged in, I can see information about all the other members. Well, let me show it to you another way. But when a member of the public comes to the site, they only see a listing of the officers and of the members who chose to make their profile public. So as an individual member, you can go in and put in your information. And some of this is picked up from your Toastmasters.org, your Toastmasters directory listing. You can put in a paragraph about yourself, and then you decide whether to make some of this information available to people who are coming to the site, maybe even show your email publicly, or whether you want most of that to be kept private and only visible to other members. The reason you might want to make it public is maybe you're in business for yourself and it's just another social media profile, another professional profile, and you want everybody to know that you're a member of this club. And some other people may be much more conservative about what they want to share membership information or contact information with, even with other members potentially. So these are all options that you can give people. All right, I've been at this for more than an hour now. I think I see one more message in the chat, and then we're going to wrap up. Yeah, a question on websites versus newsletters. Yeah, I think we're kind of more in the web age these days, and you know, you can have an email newsletter that gathers together some of the best information from the website. So I should show you one more thing on the Club Awesome site. I mentioned something about publishing video privately. So there's a whole section here called members only content. So if I am not a member, if I'm not logged in, and I click on this, I'll get a prompt saying that you need to log in order to view this post. But as a member, I can go in and view this last batch of speech videos. So this is the same information that I showed being sent out in an email newsletter, But here it is. It's categorized on the site. This is also tagged by the name of the member. So if I click on Fernando's name, I should be able to find some other videos that were also from Fernando. It's taking a moment to load. So, okay. So yeah, this is, I think just the previous week he had also spoken. And so you could go back some period of time and find Fernando's speeches that he's given. So that's a way of members to be able to go out back and find this information that we're accumulating. And from time to time, we want to go back and say, you know, that speech you gave, that was really fantastic, and I'd like to share it outside the club. I'd like to share it as an example of the kind of talent that we have in Club Awesome. I think that would be a great recruiting tool. And if you flatter people enough, they are likely to say yes. All right, I'm going to leave it there for today. I thank you all for joining me. And if you have other questions, please feel free to write back to me or follow up any other way.